So I have multiple hats here. The company I work for is called Advance Auto Parts. We are a Fortune 500, $10 billion revenue company. We've got 75,000 people roughly working for us. Um, and and we can't do everything. Okay, of course we can't do anything. We're mostly in retail. It's comparable to Noroto in France without the service part. We've got 6,000 stores. We do a lot of things inside the company in terms of technology because there's some of the stuff are very unique to our business model. However, that we rely on a lot of other suppliers for that. And lately, uh, I've been involved in picking products or selecting companies, and we're not specifically looking for people with a track records of thousands of years of experience or whatever. It's so startup are welcome there, and startups are, if they have a great idea, if they have something, I'm really happy to also take the idea and push it inside the company, and that's also a little bit part of my role anyway. Um, so there's this Fortune 500, okay, like in French you would say the CAC 40, kind of companies dealing with startups, and I think it's also a little bit fair. We don't hear a lot of as much horror stories like, oh, as they took my idea and they developed inside. We have other things to do than do that. So we welcome ideas, we welcome companies that are reasonable, and do business with them. That's this kind of relationship. We also have, a lot of smaller companies mingling. Susan mentioned that the startup scene and meetups are really very active. I run a technical meetup around Apache Spark, for example, and that's also allowing to create vast network in the big data space. So there's plenty of ways to do business and get involved. I'm on the board of 3 startups. It's really you get into it, you start playing, and then you build your network this way. But I think it's compared to France, where I was doing the same thing in Alsace. um, it's faster here, and so I think it can accelerate quick a bit compared to my past experience in France.
Yes, and what would you say, and each of you can answer, would be the do's and the don'ts when you're a French entrepreneur with plenty of ideas and coming over to your region, coming over first to the US and then to your region?
So yeah, I think I'll take the lead on this one. The I, I I recommend a book, and I'll have to send it to you, Veronique. The title, I bought it at the Fnac in Strasbourg, and it was about the Americans don't want your cheese. And the thing is, you've got to think that there is this syndrome of, and you can look at different French companies. French companies going abroad are more successful in a lot of other countries than in the US, because we've got this kind of syndrome. Oh, we are friends. Oh, we're thinking the same, but we are not. Okay, so when you come here, you've got to press a reset button. If you don't, then you're going to apply your same French mechanism when you're coming here, and that doesn't go always very well. So you've got to be patient. You've got to understand the culture. You've got to adapt to the culture. It may not seem as you've got this first layer which seems similar, but if you scratch a little bit, you've got to look under it. Okay, and be ready to learn about that. Otherwise, you will make some mistakes. You will offend people, and offended people will always say yes or a polite yes, but you will never get anything from them. Okay, so and that's something where it's a bit different from France.
I
Okay,
want to
I
say,
have another question from the YouTube chat about, and that's a question for Susan, saying what's the situation, the status for women leaders in the RTP area? Do you see any difference? How do you, what's your experience?
This gets me excited because I was chair of Women in Bio. I belong to the Healthcare Business Women's Association, and the female entrepreneur support is vast. There's definitely a network. I landed here to piggyback on what you. Cultural differences aren't just French and American. I was from the Northeast, so everything there is faster and more direct. And when I came here, I had to slow down. And one of the ways I learned to integrate was getting involved in the female community and finding female mentors who really helped me understand the nuances of the community and connect to other women. So now, 9 years later, I've gone from being the one to ask for introductions to being the one who is happy to provide them. And perhaps there's some way that if there's a female entrepreneur who's interested in coming over here, we connect her to someone within our community who could have a conversation from that perspective. I find that women here are well supported.
Okay. So I had also another question concerning what would you find here? I mean, what would be the find here that you can't find in Boston? And what is the thing that you would miss most of not having chosen Boston?
So the light I would miss here because everything is very accessible, everything is very drivable. Even going to and from the airport, it's very easy to navigate because it is smaller and the community is small enough that we know each other. So what being in Boston, the larger community, I have a lot of connections in Boston, and there's more biotech there than there is here. So there are more networking and financial opportunities there from a numbers perspective. Culturally, I think my company fits better here, just because of who the founders are and what the technology is and where we're tethered.
Okay, and I don't know if Thomas or Jean-Georges, or do you have any other questions?
Actually, it was not a question, but just a comment. When you are living, working in the US, like you are in the US, so Raleigh's Research Triangle is kind of a base camp for developing your business, doing your business. But you know, everything is extremely connected. We are connected with this Visio, this conference today, and it's really easy to work from one place and to have connection to all over the tech hub in the US. You just need to have your basic trustworthy connection locally to be able to find your employees and to have to be sure that they are happy in their life and they don't struggle every day to connect, to go to work, to commute and everything. And then from one point, you are connected with the East Coast, the West Coast, stuff, everywhere. So that was just my comment. In France, we are used to live in a small country and with difficulties to go abroad in Europe because you have frontier, different language and borders. In the US, like it's 800 million inhabitants, all connected with the ALENA system.
Okay. And
I think as a conclusion on my side, it's really a great place to get started in the US. It might not be the place where you end up, developing the entire company based on the resources, based on where your customers are. But it's a great place to start. And I've coached a few companies that started here. They moved elsewhere after. They are not always happy about the choice of moving after, but because they see the costs linked to moving and to be elsewhere. But you will find everything. You will find everything you need to get started here. You will have the network. You have friends now. So it's really a great place to start for or to even experiment a kind of a soft launch in the US.
I'm reading another question on the YouTube chat. Following Thomas' comment, they say, "Are you also connected to the other French tech ecosystems in the US? There are other French tech communities, and that's a very good question, actually, indeed. How do you relate to the other French tech communities? And I have another sub question as far that I add. Do you also have some other connections to other European startup ecosystems?" So two questions, actually. One with the other French tech communities in the US, and then the other with the other startup ecosystem in some other countries in Europe.
Yeah. So quickly on the French tech, the French tech in North America, not only the US, because we're also including Canada. I don't think there's anything in Mexico yet, but that's part of North America. We're trying to build a bit of a network. The French Tech New York has taken the lead on making a conference, a similar conference as you're doing, Veronique, early December. But it was supposed to be an in-person conference. It's probably going to be a little bit more problematic. So we'll see when that comes. But we are trying, and that's the goal of that is to show us as a network and give you hints about where we are, but we are developing this network. The French Tech in Raleigh Research Triangle. We started end of last year, and we have been accredited in April or May. Thomas, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but and then we were hit with COVID, so we've been delayed about that. But we are building on that. On the connection to other ecosystem, we have connections to the local ecosystems in here, like American Underground, CED that Susan mentioned, and other organization around that. And in Europe, I am personally connected, and I'm trying to connect more with something in Mulhouse in the south of Alsace called KM0. For Kilometer Zero, which is an incubator that is a resurgence of the old Mulhouse industries that suffered a bit, like very comparable to what Durham lived. So we are open to anything. Alsace doesn't have didn't create a good relationship with the French tech, so Alsatian, they're kind of a special race of their own. So.
Just to ask, I raised my hand.
Okay, Thomas.
Just actually, I used to live in North Carolina. I'm living in France now, and I realized that in the US, the French tech community, it's really it's a mindset, and it's really a way for all these tech talents, French entrepreneurs, tech people working in big companies to have a way to be united, to be connected, and to have discussion between them. In France, we are all French. So French tech it's a brand, it's a mindset too. But like when you are in the US, having one point of connection in one of those French tech, it's really a huge asset, because we have a Slack connection between all the French tech, and then when you are connected with the French tech in Raleigh, you are connected with all the French tech with regular discussion. It's really easy to have a discussion with these people who are well known because all these French companies used to succeed in the US. For some of them are really, really well known. So it's a great great asset. All this connection between the French tech.
Okay, thanks, Thomas. We are now arriving almost at the end of our session. So I just ask each of you maybe to give just one or two words about what would be your advice for French entrepreneurs looking to set up. So what would be one or two words that you would say to them? You want to start, Thomas?
Say why me? I would say, there are three steps in our discussion collaboration. First, you have to understand that there is a potential partner in the US who is willing to collaborate and to create connection. So if you are a French entrepreneur and you want to develop something, just know that here in North Carolina, you have a lot of people who want to create this collaboration. The second thing is to be able to create this connection and kind of opportunity to discuss with someone and just after the YouTube session, just connect with Jean-Georges, connect with me, connect with Suzanne, just to say, hey, hello, I'm here and I want to have more information, more discussion. So just create this connection. And then the third thing is just to be able to come. And so you have to wait a little bit, but it's really, it's difficult before going there, difficult to understand this kind of community, what described Suzanne and Jean-Georges, but it's really, really interesting to understand all this connection between research, experimentation lab, innovation, and big companies, and everything is well connected, and it's amazing to observe.
Okay, we are almost over, so just very, 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 very short, just a few seconds for Susan and Jean-Georges.
Go ahead, Susan.
I agree. Come see how it feels. In the interim, before we can travel, I would encourage you to reach out and let's see if we can find somebody who's like-minded to connect you with and start a dialogue. People here are very open to conversations, and take the first step and see if you can find the synergy.
Okay.
And then please come visit.
Jean-Georges?
Yeah, it's just come here. Let's have a barbecue together. You will be surprised about what it is, and let's have this conversation. Come over. Just use Raleigh as a hub if you're going somewhere else. If you're going to San Francisco, for example, stop here, spend a couple of days. We'll visit, and then you can go to San Francisco, and then you'll come back here anyway. So, thank you.
Okay.